Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now. Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be. We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down. Come on! This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
The pod bay doors are open. I am your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com, along with my intrepid co-host, Jerry Dean Roberts, of ArmchairCinema.com, ArmchairOscars.com, and OverThinkingOscars.WordPress.com. How are you, Jerry?
I like this co-host. Fearless and inventive.
Today, on a very special midweek edition of the Pod Bay Doors, which will not supersede our Christmas story episode, we are muscling in here to talk about an astoundingly fantastic movie that just hit theaters over this last weekend, Star Wars Episode VIII: The Last Jedi. We should
tell you, if you don't like this movie, turn us off now, because this is going to be ridiculously positive.
Yes. Both of us gave it 4 stars. My review is pending. Jerry's review is very well written. It's up on his site, ArmchairCinema.com. I was so shocked by this movie and stunned that we're leaving the theater, and my wife is trying to talk to me about it. This was the Thursday night show. My wife is trying to talk to me about it, and I'm like, not yet.
You can't. You just can't.
I mean, it was a good 20 minutes before I could say anything, other than, where did we park?
I honestly did not expect this. Let me kind of go back a little bit.
This will not be spoiler free, by the way.
Oh, yeah. By the way, we are drawing a line right here at this very moment. We are drawing a line. This is past this line. Spoilers. Spoiler heavy. We will not hesitate. We will show no mercy.
Right. Yes. We're not going to dance around anything. We're going full bore.
Absolutely not. I'm going to admit I was a little nervous about this.
Really?
Because the first movie got a lot of flack for being too much like A New Hope, which I kind of understand a little bit why, because
I get it, but it's not a remake, as
it's
so
not a
many people
remake.
seem to want to try to put on it.
But I did sense a little nervousness
Hmm.
because the studio was trying to deal essentially with a damaged product, trying to deal with a
Mm.
product that had basically lost its reputation because of the prequels.
Hmm.
And this was the first one after that, and they were like, okay, this better be good.
Right.
But you did sense a little bit of nervousness, so they did play it a little safe with Force Awakens.
Hmm. They did.
That's not the case here,
No, no.
because I was afraid that this was going to be kind of a remake of the Empire Strikes Back. There are shadows of it.
Right. There's shadows in the structure and everything, but it's
It's wholly
I
its own.
it's very much it. There's a trans film critic out there, Carol Runyon, who said that J.J. Abrams directed Star Wars with the reverence that nerds think that it needs, but Johnson directed it with the joy that you used to feel from the movies that they don't experience anymore.
Right.
um,
Well, and it's also it nothing about this film feels inevitable.
no, no, no. There's so many twists and turns. This, and I think that this was a good uh, follow up after Rogue One. Rogue One kind of set the stage for this one because of how, I mean, everybody dies. It's a
Yeah.
very bleak. A lot of people die. It's very much a galaxy at war movie, and it sets you up for what Disney was prepared to allow filmmakers to do with this franchise. And I, for this one, was not nervous, um, because I love Rian Johnson's work.
Mm.
Brick, the Brothers Bloom, and Looper are actually. We're gonna do an episode on Brick. I promise
Yeah.
you. uh, he's always exciting and uh, always does the unexpected. You always come out of his movies like, I can't believe that somebody actually thought of that and pulled it off and did it remarkably well.
Yeah.
It's every movie he does is exactly like that. So I knew that we weren't going to get anything that we'd seen before, and I knew that it was going to be incredible because that's just how he works.
I knew this film was going to be complex
Yeah.
because his scripts are always complex.
Mhm.
His films are always complex. They're not simple-minded at all. I've only seen Looper and Brick,
You've seen
but
Brick
they're
now?
yeah, I saw Brick and I loved it.
It's incredible.
And it's I kind of saw it in preparation for this,
Okay.
and so like I say, his stories are not simple-minded.
No. No, they're
Uh,
not.
as I said, there's nothing inevitable about this film because it's the eighth in a series, but it feels new.
Yeah. It's
It
like,
feels like it feels like the natural progression of what has come before.
mhm. And it's exciting because it really sets a stage for J.J. Abrams now doing who's coming back to do episode 9 in what 2019,
2019.
to really go out on a limb a little bit further. Although Abrams is kind of a safe director, he has a lot more latitude now to do a lot more surprising things because Rian Johnson completely changed the entire playing field with these
Yeah,
characters. Rey's parentage is revealed, which there's still speculation as to that may or may not be the truth because Kylo Ren says that they sold her for drinking money. They were nobody and they sold her for drinking money. But
why her to tell her anything?
right, and he's trying to tell her you're nothing except to me, and all this kind of stuff to get her to try to turn and
Right.
rule the galaxy together. I don't know if he's in love with her or in his general approximation of love.
Oh, we'll
She
get
just
to that. There's a seduction going on there that is
there is, and she is
out of
not really having a lot of it. She wants him on the side to defeat the First Order. He wants her because he's fallen in love with her power, like she's the augmentation of him on the other side.
Well, let's
And
start at the beginning because start at the very beginning because this movie
a very good
uh,
place to start.
begins on two fronts.
Yeah.
And it begins immediately after when last we left our heroes.
Right,
Because
which is the first time that this has ever happened. There's usually months or a couple years gap in between Star
Well,
Wars
this
entries.
really starts with the evacuation, and it gives me
Mhm.
something that I've never seen before in a Star Wars movie, even in the original trilogy. You can see what's happening to the resistance rebellion. You can see what's happening. The numbers are chipping away
Mm-hmm.
very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, every few minutes they lose somebody,
Right.
and it's the situation is critical.
Yeah.
So they throw you in the middle of that, and you know you're going to lose some good characters. And one character in particular, you are positive that you're going to lose, and you don't.
Yeah.
Because you're, and by the way, when I saw this on opening day,
Me too. Thursday night show.
sitting in a row with my wife on one side and my friend on the other, and there were 11 of us taking up one row, colons clenched, because we have no idea what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is unpredictable,
As all get out.
and the most melancholy thing that you're waiting to happen is you're waiting for the end of Leia,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't happen.
Right.
We kill off Admiral Akbar,
Yeah.
and by the way, where's his funeral? They kill off Admiral Akbar.
Well, they don't have time for a funeral. They're running away from the
time for a
First
funeral.
Order.
They're running, yeah, but I want to see what a fish funeral looks like. But that scene,
Actually, there
people-
might be one in the Clone Wars episode where they go to Mon
that could be
Calamari.
it, yeah.
I think there is one.
But there's one scene that everybody thought was the end of Leia.
Mm-hmm.
And people are so divided on this because some people think it's silly and some people think it's great. I call it Super Leia.
It was wonderful because it was an unconscious thing that she reached out, and the Force basically saved her because the galaxy wasn't done with her yet.
With the pose.
I know. Well, I mean, when the bridge got hit and everybody got sucked out, I thought she was going to either hold on, or that was it.
I thought that was it.
Rian Johnson, after the movie came out, he's now given interviews that he can talk about things now, and he's just talking about everything. And he said that there was a moment where that was going to be it.
Yeah.
But he felt that not only would that kind of jip us out of her character, but it would also jip us out of, one, Carrie Fisher's final performance, which was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
two, her reuniting with Luke
Right.
at the end, and her scene with Admiral Holdo.
Yeah.
So that's a huge chunk of story
Mm-hmm.
that they would have had to completely rewrite and reshoot. So they decided to keep her there. He basically said, "Okay, JJ, this is your problem now." Or at the time, Colin Trevorrow, this is your problem. I'm not going to deal with this here.
my wife actually leaned over to me and said, "Oh, that's how they do it."
That's what I thought.
And then we get her, she goes into the sick bay and all that. She's out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get this character, this Vice Admiral Holdo. I like this character.
She was
Laura
really good,
Dern
played by
did
Laura
a-
Dern.
with a really strange look. She looks like a purple giraffe.
She does.
And
I was when she shows up, like I thought from the stills and everything, the way that she's dressed, and I knew that Canto Bight was a casino. I thought we were going to run into her there.
yeah,
I didn't realize that beautifully layered evening dress was her uniform.
yeah, that's her uniform. Well, it's funny because, as I said, that the numbers are ticking away. It's situation critical.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it's down to there are fractures that are forming in the resistance because Poe just wants to jump and run and
blow stuff up.
Like, let's devise a strategy here
Mm-hmm.
because you just you succeeded, but you lost our entire bombing squadron.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way that Laura Dern approaches him because she's like, it reminds you of if you've ever been on a job or in school, and you have a supervisor or a teacher that you've been sort of friendly with, so they let you have a little bit of,
Mm-hmm.
a
Freedom
little bit
and
of
leeway.
a
Yeah.
little bit of freedom, and then that person goes away and a new person comes in, and you try to have that leeway with that person.
You seem to think that
The
your
new
position is inflated, and it's really not.
Right, and the person says, okay, that's wonderful, but this person's not here anymore, and I'm in charge, so why don't you go take your seat, okay?
Yeah.
That's what she's like. She's like the new supervisors come in, it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what they did.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
basically, he says, I'd like to know what's going on. She says, I'm sure you would.
I'm sure you would. Listen, I love it when she was just basically like, I've known a lot of hotshot pilots like you. You just want to run in and do everything, and you're a great pilot, and you're exactly what we don't need right now. So go take your station.
And she's right. And she's right.
She is.
She's not like the deputy sheriff in Die Hard who's just wrong about everything.
Right.
She's actually right.
I did love that moment, though. Right before the First Order shows up, and she's like, "Poe, you have to learn," or just after they make their jump into light hyperspace, and she's like, "You need to learn that you can't. Not every solution is to just jump in an X-wing and blow stuff up." And then when they get tracked through hyperspace and the First Order shows up, he runs up to her and goes, "Permission to jump into an X-wing and blow stuff up?" She's like, "Granted."
Granted. Sometimes it's what you need. Sometimes it's just, at the moment, at the beginning of the movie, that's not what they needed.
Mm-mm.
It's like, yes, you can blow up it. I blew up the dreadnought. So yes, but at what cost?
Yeah. But then, if you really think about it, though, once you find out that they're being tracked through hyperspace, that dreadnought would have taken them out a lot faster.
Yeah, so it was basically useless. It was basically useless strategy. Yes, it blew up a dreadnought, but, and that they...
No, but if they were tracking them, the dreadnought would have followed.
Yeah.
And they would have taken out the fleet a lot faster.
But
so in a way, he was right, and in a way, he was really wrong.
But you know that the First Order probably has another one.
Well, they have more than one, yeah.
Yeah, probably has one other one, yeah. The other front is where we left off. And that's on the island. And because I think Finn wakes up.
On the planet of Octo.
Bless you. We meet Rey and Luke right before we left them. He does something I completely did not expect.
Nobody expected this. She hands him the lightsaber. You get the swelling John Williams score from the end of the last movie, The Jedi Steps, this brand new theme. Ba-da-da-da. And he's looking at the lightsaber, and he just takes it with his good hand and tosses it over his shoulder off a cliff. And just storms past her.
My friend sitting next to me, she says, "I did not see that coming."
Nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw that coming.
And really, I think what it says is it's just a trinket. And this whole movie is
Or
about,
it's a symbol of being in the fight, which
yeah.
is not what he wants.
And this movie, ultimately, when you get down to it, this movie is about how, the trinket objects like that lightsaber in the books and all of that are really, when you get to the center of it, are kind of useless. They're just symbols. They're not, religious talismans.
Right, because
They're just
this is the first Star Wars movie that has a lightsaber battle without actually ever crossing lightsabers.
without having a lightsaber battle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And this is a movie that, even in that moment, is trying to disregard the idea of mythology.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying. This is the first time I've ever seen a Star Wars movie where they're trying to see it on a pragmatic level.
Right.
Just say, hey, there are bigger things than, hokey religions and ancient weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's disregarding that. And I love, by the way, and this is one of the joys of movies. If you watch movies long enough, the idea of catching up with characters years later.
Yeah.
When we did that a couple of years ago with Rocky,
Mm-hmm.
catching up with character, seeing how his life turned out.
Well,
And here,
we get that with that, and then in like what we're going to be talking about in an upcoming episode, with Truffaut's movies, with the Adventures of Antoine Doinel.
mhm,
He started it in '59, and the last one that he made was in '79. So over 20 years, and he used the same actor, Jean-Paul Diot.
right.
And so
And we
he,
got that in Force Awakens.
yeah, we did,
We saw
and
that
it was
Han Solo
great.
basically had not grown up.
Right.
And here, it's interesting because, and for me, it's really poignant because you have to remember I was right there at the beginning of Star Wars.
Right.
Class of what we now call Class of '77. I was there. I was 6 years old. I fell in love with this character of Luke Skywalker and sort of been a constant ever since.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was there. It was action figures, bedspreads,
Mm-hmm.
lunchboxes, notebooks,
Mm-hmm.
curtains. This character was on everything.
Yeah.
So it was always, and it is interesting to me here 30 years later to see where his life turned out. And it's not surprising
Right.
because the natural progression of what he founded at the end of Jedi was not to last. Because somebody's going to want to pull, the Sith back together again.
Or just,
And,
utilize the dark side or something
right.
to that effect. You see, I thought where he ended up on Octo, I think that was surprising. It was surprising for Mark Hamill,
Yeah.
who at the beginning when he read the script, he's like, "Are you kidding me?" And he said to Rian Johnson, "I fundamentally disagree with every character choice you've made for
Saw that.
Luke." But then later on, as they were doing it and as he worked with Johnson more, he realized how really good that decision was. But Luke was the eternal optimist.
Yeah, that's the
And
other end, is that he's the, in the first movie, he's this bright-eyed kid.
mm-hmm.
Second movie, he's this sullen teenager.
Mm-hmm.
The third movie, he's this more thoughtful, growing into adulthood. Here, he's an older man.
Mm-hmm.
An older man's cynicism, dispassion, or just lack of passion for anything. Really, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right, because when he tried it backfired on him.
And the crux of
And
this movie is about failure.
right,
It's
failure
not about success.
and loss of purpose and attempting to find purpose.
Yeah.
In Luke,
And Yoda tells him it's okay to fail, basically.
yeah, you got to pass on your weaknesses and your failures, because failure is the greatest teacher. I loved it when Yoda showed up. He's going in to burn that thing, and the camera just moves, and you see that little pointy ear. Before you see anything else, you see a blue twinged green pointy ear, and I'm like,
Yeah. that was me. That was me and my wife. Was that a puppet?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Because for a second it didn't look like a puppet.
Oh man.
He had this air of like being very dotty, being very kind of a doddery old man. He's just because he's always just it's a brief scene, but he's kind of amused.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess at how serious Luke is taking all of this. It's like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you're gonna fail.
Missed you. I have, young Skywalker. And I loved it. Like, so he's gonna burn down the tree and all the sacred Jedi texts, and then he can't do it, and Yoda's just like, and makes the lightning come and burn down the whole tree. And he's like, but the
Right.
sacred Jedi text, and Yoda's like, read them you did? Well, page turners. They were not.
Did it seem a little malevolent that he burned down that tree?
Well, you know, I mean, he did it because Rey already stole the books, so.
Yeah, they're on the Falcon. Yeah. Yeah, they're on the Falcon. Even if he didn't, it doesn't matter because they're just books.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, basically, and who are you gonna give them to?
Right.
Because you know, again, it's about failure.
Mm-hmm.
It's about
And that's
learning
what he says that the Jedi were. They were just a failed institution. At the height of their power, they let Darth Sidious take over the galaxy and eradicate them, and they also trained Darth Vader. And Rey's like, yeah, and the person that turned Darth Vader. He's like,
Yeah,
you know,
alleged.
yeah, the most hated person in the galaxy, sure, but they also made you. And, you know,
Well, he also,
he's
you know, I was talking about the progression of the character as an older man who's, you know, has that cynicism. He still has the qualities that we remember.
mm-hmm, he does.
He was raised on a desert
Mm-hmm.
and had to learn how to be a survivalist.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
I loved.
he goes to Dagobah and he has to learn how to be a survivalist.
Mm-hmm.
Here, he's still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
He's fishing and all of that.
I love. So the fishing was set up in the book The Legends of Luke Skywalker, where I think post Jedi, post Battle of Endor, he's flying around the galaxy, finding people who cultures who studied the Force but didn't call it really the Force.
Yeah.
So he's trying to find all this wisdom of the Force through anybody culturally kind of backwards or whatever, and this culture flew on the backs of, I guess, like Avatar type things, like the things from Avatar that they fly on, and they had these super long poles that were like kilometers long that they would fish with, and he learned how to do that on this trial kind of thing. And
did you notice he does not use the Force to survive?
No, he didn't. And did you also notice that he's a moof milker?
Yeah, I noticed that. What I love about that scene with the milking is I love the creature who turns to Rey and goes, ah.
Yeah.
They were not afraid to show that.
No.
At all.
No. And
you know,
it was really it was surprising, like when they're sitting there, and then when he goes up to it, I'm like, they're gonna show that, aren't they?
Yeah. You know what I love? What I love about that planet is I love the ancillary characters in the background whose lives keep getting disrupted by
the caretakers
going on in the plot.
The caretakers were great.
They lose their wheelbarrow when she cuts the top off the rock.
And she shoots the blaster, and they're like trying to fix this hole, and it's like, who are they? It looks like the caretakers. She's like, I don't think they like me. He's like, can't imagine why. He's very he's sardonic and sarcastic.
And he's so funny.
He is.
I love it when she says, he says, where are you from? She says, I'm from nowhere. Nobody's from nowhere. Jesus, Jakku.
Jakku. Okay, that's
that's
pretty
much
close to
nowhere.
nowhere. That's pretty much nowhere. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much nowhere.
But it's just interesting. He's so. But he failed
hmm
at trying to revive the Jedi Order.
And
When he didn't do
because
that,
right, he was trained by himself
right?
with all this pressure on him to restart the Jedi Order from nothing, from just himself. When it used to be thousands of people, thousands of beings, all of whom had their own purpose. Some of them recruited the younglings that were force sensitive. Some of them stayed at the temple and taught. Some of them went out on missions. But he's got to do all this by himself.
The burden is on him.
Right. And so he tries to pass on what he's learned. And when he fails, he was never really taught. I think by the time that they were training Luke, Obi-Wan and Yoda were just like, you know what? Let's not really go hardcore into the you can't have attachments thing, because we just need him to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
So he got attached, obviously, to his nephew, to his other students, and that crashed down. And that is one of the things. I think he closed himself off from the Force so that he didn't turn.
Yeah, well, and
Because
also so that he didn't have to deal with the rest. He didn't have to deal with concerns with the outer world.
right.
Because it would have been too much temptation to one, as we've seen before, we saw this in Empire, too much temptation to jump and run.
Right.
You know,
And
to
Leia
go-
probably would have been able to find him.
Right. He would have known about Han, he would have known about this and that. He would have jumped
And Snoke and Kylo Ren would have been able to find him too.
Right, and by the way, and I look for this in every Star Wars movie, there's a new element here to the Force that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
It was alluded to in Empire a little bit, but the idea of being able to speak to someone across time and space.
Yeah, the telepathic connection.
I call it Jedi Skype, where you are, and I love the way they filmed this. That it looks like a conversation in the same room.
The way that they cut that together, like it was a shot reverse shot conversation, was brilliant. And I loved. There's a lot of there's some flack about having to see Adam Driver without a shirt on, but there's a reason. There's a reason for it, and it's not to, as somebody said, show off his Sith pack abs like they did for Anakin in 3. It was to genuinely let you know that she saw everything. She saw him. She could see him. So
Could you please put a shirt on?
could you put a cloak on or something? And he just won't. And he just doesn't do it. I'd rather not do this now. Me either. But here we are.
This is a seduction we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
It's mental, and it's touching the heart and the brain and everywhere else. And it's the first time we've ever seen it between a male and a female. And it's really interesting the way they do it, because he just kind of shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, she says, I don't really want to do this right now.
He's like, I don't either.
Showing up at her weakest point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to show up at your weakest moment, because if I show up when you're strong, you're not gonna, you'll be able to resist me. And then they do this weird thing where there's a physical touch that's able to take place.
Right.
Reaches out his hand and that they're able to touch, and that's a new thing.
Yeah, it's very, very new. Before. No, I mean, it was more exciting, I thought, than Kylo Ren being able to freeze people and being able to freeze the laser bolt in the air. which was amazing in The Force
Was
Awakens. I was like, oh, I've never seen anything like that before. And then this happens, and because this is so intimate, and because and they think that it's the Force connecting them,
Mhm.
but it's Snoke.
Yes.
Because, man, can we talk about his powers for a while? Because
Apparently can do anything.
except
Except
figure
see it
out
coming.
something really basic, yeah.
He can see it
I
all,
mean,
but he can't see it coming.
he was completely right in what he was saying was happening.
Yeah.
There was just that little bit that was hidden from him that made all the difference.
Just took his eye off the ball, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting also is Rey is not the center of this movie.
No.
She's one of many subplots.
This is
not,
very, very much an ensemble,
right.
which
It's a
is
multi-layered story.
which is odd for a Star Wars movie. Even though there's always a whole lot of characters in a Star Wars movie, there's usually a core group. But the core group was so big at this point because you've got Luke and Rey and Snoke and Kylo Ren and General Hux and Finn and Rose and Admiral Holdo, Leia and Poe and Poe and Finn and Rose and it and Chewie and the Porgs.
Yeah. I love when he's sitting by the fireplace.
He's gonna try to. He's roasted two of them. He's just trying to bite into them. They look at him with their big old eyes, like, "Don't
He
eat
turns
eyes."
his back, and there's a bunch of more. The comedy in this is great.
There was a lot of humor that was
If you
used
go
to
back
diffuse
to-
a lot of the stunning, shocking things that were going on.
If you go back to episode 1, the comedy stepped on the plot.
Yeah.
Which is why it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's balanced evenly, and it's balanced in such a way that it's not like episode 3, in which you had such a minimum of comedy and such a minimum of laughter.
And it was all leaned in the beginning.
And it was such a morbid slog because of that.
It was.
And it's like
But
I keep saying
original...
when I talk about episode 3, it's like it's a good movie, but it's not fun to watch.
No, but the original trilogy and Force Awakens, there's a lot of humor in them.
Yeah.
And it used to come from Han Solo primarily.
Yeah. Well, it comes from that ensemble because the comedy in this is, like I say, it's not stepping on the material.
Right.
This one right at the beginning, and it's so perfectly balanced. It's when Poe Dameron calls Hux.
He's like holding for General Hux. We will crush your resistance, and you will be gone. Still holding. General Hux.
I have a message from Leia.
Red hair,
your mother.
kind of pasty. Can he hear me? Can he hear me? Can you hear me? He can hear you. You will end. I have a message from Leia about your mother.
I have a feeling, you get the feeling from General Hux that he could probably be taken down by, like, a pie in the face. Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's
being taken down a peg.
He could be baited by a tweet and then completely undermine everything, but still be really malicious.
And Domhnall Gleeson just chews on this part.
Because he did. My wife can't watch the speech before Starkiller fires for the first time when he's in his Hitler moment.
Yeah.
Because she laughs because the way that he just screams over the top.
Yeah.
Just, we will destroy the Republic and the loathsome resistance, and this will be the last day of the Republic.
And you know he's spitting when he's doing
I
that.
know. It's hard. He can't not. I just did. I'm glad there's nobody else in the room.
You know, it's funny because I love this. I love the scene where he's. I mean, there's this five-way between him and Kylo Ren, where it's just like they're at odds, and at the end of the movie, he just kind of gets his, and he orders Kylo Ren to send me down there, and Huck starts yelling at him. He just uses the Force,
Shoves him away.
smashes against the wall. The guy in the foreground's like, "Ready when you are, sir."
Yeah. I love that they give in these two movies. I love that they give Kylo Ren some kind of humor.
Yeah.
Like in The Force Awakens, when the guy comes and says that BB-8 got away on a freighter, and Ren is just like, the droid stole a freighter. And then he says, we believe he had help. We believe that it was a stormtrooper. And then he throws his tantrum and he cuts up the thing. He extinguishes his lightsaber and just goes, anything else? The way that Driver delivered that, I laughed every time. I still laugh every time. Anything else? And then there was the girl. And and in this one, at the end, when they're in his shuttle commanding the attack over Crate, every order that Ren gives as the new Supreme Leader, Hux re-gives louder to the troops.
Yeah.
So, and there was this one time, he the second or third time he did it, he was just like, no, press on. Continue attack! It repeats exactly what he says, and he just kind of looks off to the side, like, why did you just do that? Like, are you serious? Do you have to re-say everything? Is this how this is going to work? Because I can't stand this.
I'm going to tell you, going back to the, they're on the run and all that, going back to that, too.
Mm-hmm.
My heart sank a little bit when I realized that there was going to be a plot at which they had to find another weakness in the machinery.
Right.
They had to go in, they have to sneak in, and they have to knock out this thing, which will...
And then they could escape.
I was so gratified when I got to the end and realized that wasn't the point.
Right.
Because the movie takes a side road that a lot of people... This is really controversial because a lot of people do not like this. There's a long side road where they go to this... with a Canto Bite.
Yeah, Canto Bite on Cantonica.
To find this code breaker, played by Justin Theroux, by the way.
Which is he's like in it for like a minute.
And he looks like, and I swear he looks like Desi Arnaz.
He does.
And they go there, it's not even the guy they end up with.
And there's a lot of people that are going after Benicio del Toro's character, whom they referred to on set as DJ, but he's never given a name in the movie.
I think it's on his hat.
It might be. Calling him a useless character, like, I don't think he's useless at all.
I didn't call him useless. I just called him not as interesting as the other characters.
And no, I kind of see... You haven't watched the Clone Wars, which I'm still surprised that you haven't watched the Clone Wars. But
I'm getting there.
There's a character that was introduced early on in the Clone Wars that you're probably more familiar with from Rebels, named Hondo Ohnaka. He was an old pirate. And the Jedi would run into him. Obi-Wan and Anakin ran into him a whole bunch during the Clone Wars. And then he ended up crossing paths with Ezra and the Rebels groups. DJ was kind of like him to me, because he'll just say and do whatever that'll get him to the next point that'll help him.
Right.
And if that meant getting in and getting onto the ship and disabling the thing and getting paid by the Resistance, great. If that meant getting caught and brokering a deal with the limited information that he had about the Resistance fleet, fine. Whatever gets him to live to be the next day and gets him some money in his pocket. That's all
Well,
he cared.
my issue was this: they spent so much time with his character, and every minute that they spent with him, he was so vague. And what ultimately happened was not surprising.
No, it certainly wasn't.
In a movie full of surprises.
Right, especially because
they
they released the still with him around stormtroopers, so it's like, okay,
right,
so he's playing them. But he
right.
wasn't, he just took an opportunity.
But I kept thinking, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, okay, where's the triple cross?
But I don't know. I loved Canto Bite.
Oh, I love Canto Bite. The controversy is that the Canto Bite scenes are unnecessary.
How
Which
so?
I don't think they are. I
No.
don't think they are, because I think what is revealed here is how exactly the First Order, and by extension the Empire, were funded.
Mm-hmm.
They were funded by war profiteers
Mm-hmm.
who really didn't care what side they were working for.
No, because
They
they
just
were
make money.
getting paid.
But basically, it's Monte Carlo.
Monte
And
Carlo, Las Vegas.
right, right, and it's scum and villainy, and then you see this place that doesn't look like Mos Eisley. It's
No.
big, it's big, beautiful, And I love Rose's line. I'd love to put my fist to this beautiful city.
Mm-hmm.
Because you realize it is mounted on the backs of slaves,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah, basically, or
And
indentured servants. There's a book that just came out fairly recently, it might have even been at the beginning of December, called Canto Bite. It's a series of short stories by regular Star Wars authors that kind of introduces you to the city. I didn't get all the way through it before I saw the movie, but I got through like one and a bit of the stories that kind of introduces you to Canto Bite and everything around it. And there's one that goes into a little bit into the story of a woman who made a lot of money, lost her money, and has to work off her debt as a member of the service industry now.
right. Well,
So,
and I think this scene also helps you understand a little bit about Rose and why this is so important
mm-hmm,
to her,
yeah,
and what that death meant to her, because her sister died at the beginning,
right.
and why it's so important. And so it's not just an ancillary character. There's some weight to it, and also that the galaxy is really, this is why the resist. Because in the original trilogy, we were always asking, like, who's paying for this?
Right, 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 right.
It's got to come from somewhere. Who's paying for all this? And it was like,
In Rogue One, you kind of find out, but
in Rogue One, you kind of find out. Here, you definitely find out,
right, yeah,
because it's all these greedy people and all of these war profiteers. What I love is I love the little characters
mm-hmm.
here. I love the little guy who keeps feeding coins.
Into BB-8.
Who, by the way, is voiced by Mark Hamill.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, the little guy? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I saw his name in there, and I'm like, well, what character is that? But
and also the Joseph Gordon-Levitt is somewhere in here. I think
yeah,
he was
is.
the Parker guy. The one that was complaining about them parking on the beach. Which, by the way, if they're going on a covert mission, why would they park on the beach?
That part was so funny. I told them that it was a public beach and that they can't park here, and that might have been him. That might have been
the
him.
The whole plot is broken because of a parking violation. Oh God!
And they stud him, and they're like, you're under arrest for parking violation, whatever code. And it's like, yeah, it's they're on the cusp of getting the guy that they need to complete their mission, and they're sidetracked because they just parked where they landed. In any other movie, not just Star Wars movie or space movie, is nobody would have noticed the shuttle parked on the beach, and they would have just gotten back to it. They would have gotten their guy. They would have gotten back to it, and they would have gone. But this is so real that they're like, look, I said he couldn't park there. I told him he couldn't park there. And he's complaining, and then he goes and he finds them with the cops, and he's like, that's them. Those are the shuttle parkers.
Oh, it's the shuttle parkers. I love that. I like the name. Shuttle parkers. By the way, we should also mention the way they get to Candlebite. The way they get to Candlebite is by a cameo from Maz, which is the cleverest way to get her into the movie because she's basically giving them instructions while she's dealing with a union dispute that has turned into a firefight.
I love that. She's like shooting at people and running, and they're like, "What is going on there?" She's like, "It's a union dispute. You do not want to know." And then she's like, "Ah!" I'm like, I wanted to see more of her because I loved her so much in The Force Awakens, but that instance of her was so perfect and inside her character that I'm like, yep, okay.
Well, here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. You know that any questions you have about anything in this movie are going to be answered in the expanded universe.
Mm-hmm.
You know somebody's going to tell a story about that union.
Right, yeah.
You know somebody's going to tell a story
We're going to get
about
that story.
You know that somebody's going to tell the story about that code breaker.
Right, yeah.
You know, the Justin Thoreau character. You know somebody's going to tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
You know somebody's going to tell Holdo's story. I mean, it's going to be... Just wait.
Which is
you don't
great.
Have to wait for
Which
the
is
movie,
it's great. And I just sounds like this codebreaker can do everything. Oh yes, he can.
Yeah.
Like Finn and Rose look at each other like, ugh.
Yeah. And I love Rose, by the way. She's as cute as a button.
Kelly Marie Tran was fantastic in this.
I feel like I've seen her before. I don't know where, but I feel like I've seen her before.
I'm not sure. I know this isn't her first movie, but it's her first kind of featured role.
Yeah. But again, I'm glad they gave her character some weight.
Yeah.
You know, so she's not just a character.
Right.
You know. But I didn't think the Candlebite scenes were unnecessary. I thought
I loved it. And the father beasts that they get to, my wife called them cat horses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they also it also sets up the scene at the very end.
Right.
With the stable boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I guess, dealing with this next trilogy the side trilogy that they're dealing with. Because they kind of set that up at the end. By the way, I have no idea where this is going. Because when this movie's over, you know the basic of where this is going, but you don't know.
You have no idea how Episode 9 is going to play out now, because, like we said, Kylo Ren kills Snoke, like halfway through the movie.
That scene.
That was so surprising. I mean, the whole it mirrors a lot of the Luke being brought before the Emperor from Return of the Jedi, and
his throne room, by the way, looks like something out of a Dario Argento movie.
I know. I was just gonna say that it was painted in Dario Argento red.
It's so.
And his golden bathrobe. I mean.
Oh, his golden bathrobe. He's like an evil Mr. Burns.
Yeah, an evil Mr. Burns, an eviler Mr. Burns.
Eviler Mr. Burns. But it's just funny. It's just funny with all these powers and all these things he can do and all these evil machinations and what have you. He's taken out by one small insight and one small oversight.
Right.
He just takes his eye off the ball for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize also there is no way in the world that Snoke could ever turn her.
Right.
Because
that's why he
could not ever have the power that Kylo Ren has over her.
Right.
And he uses it by killing his master. What's that old thing? They only kill their masters.
Yep.
That's what the Sith do. They kill their masters.
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to curry favor with her by doing that.
Mm-hmm. He's
And
he's trying to turn her. He's lulling her, and I don't think, in his mind, he thinks that he's tricking her into thinking that he's going to turn back to the light.
right.
But that was Snoke's machination to make her think that he was going to be able to turn by
I thought he
stoking
was.
his doubts. I was unsure.
I thought he was. I thought he was turning. I thought he was. I thought, well, okay, where are we going to go from here?
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you realize that wasn't the plan.
No, he's taking the seat of power for himself.
And by the way, when they cut down Snoke, it's ugly.
It is. It
Cut
is.
them in the middle, and if you notice, if you see his body on the throne, and
His hands are still there
his hands
too.
are still there.
Because he bisects him in a sitting position, so you get the lower half and his hands and a bit of his forearms. And when he falls, he just kind of slides off. And one of the next shots that you see of him is a close-up with his tongue hanging out. And there are still people on the internet who are saying that they don't think he's dead, and that they think he's Darth Plagueis, and that he's still going to come back for the ninth one.
He was cut into pieces. He was cut into pieces.
They showed him. His tongue was hanging out. He's not coming back from that, guys. The whole thing was so that we can now see Kylo Ren fully ascend to the dark side, take power of the First Order, which is basically controlling the galaxy now that they've destroyed the Republic. They're taking over. I'm feeling much better.
I feel happy.
I feel happy. Boom.
If your mom not a Monty Python fan, that will. No, he's in about 6 different pieces. He's dead. Okay.
It's only a flesh wound.
It's a flesh wound.
Yeah, to go back to a different part of that movie.
That scene, let me tell you something. That scene, the audience that I saw it with, and there was about, I'd say 100 people in our theater, went crazy. We sat through this movie colons clenched.
Yeah.
Because we did not know what was going to happen.
I mean, it was surprising from the start, because they've never started a Star Wars movie precisely on the heels of the last one, like we were saying. Between episodes 1 and 2, there's 10 years. Between episodes 2 and 3, there's 3 years. Between episodes 3 and 4, there's 19 years. Between episodes...
I mean, even between episode 3 and Rogue One, there's 20 years.
19.
19, yeah.
And then between episode 4 and 5, there's 3 solid years, and like 6 months in between episodes 5 and 6, and then 30 years between episodes 6 and 7, and 30 seconds between episodes 7 and 8. So when they were running away,
about 10 minutes between Rogue One and episode 4.
Yeah, somewhere like that. But I mean, where in Yavin, with the Battle of Yavin and the destruction of the Death Star, you know that they had to pack up and run out of there really fast, because the Empire would know where they were, because they would have sent the telemetry of the Death Star out to Coruscant or something. So they would know where they were.
Yeah.
So they could just hyperspace in there and take them out. So they had to get all their stuff together and get out. And that's when they went looking for a new base and eventually found Hoth.
Yeah.
Crate and Dakar, where the Resistance was, were both bases that were set up during the Rebellion as possible stopping points when they were scouting for Hoth.
Yeah.
And scouting for a new base after Hoth, but they never ended up needing one.
Now, Crate was the one they were going to at the end of this one, right?
Right.
Okay.
The salt planet with that looks like the planet is bleeding.
Which, by the way,
while
that
they
was
fight
beautiful.
on it.
When they pull up
oh.
when they pull up the salt, the crimson underneath it.
Oh man.
It's just symbolic.
Yeah.
Bleeding. I wrote in my
bleeding.
I wrote in
it
my
was,
review. I think the second paragraph I wrote in my review. This movie bleeds atmosphere.
It does. It does.
It absolutely does. Every minute, it's just the tone of this movie is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And is amazingly balanced between dead serious and lighthearted.
Right.
Funny. And a lot of morbid humor.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars has been good about morbid humor. It's morbid, but it's not too morbid.
Right.
But when you get to that scene in that throne room, we're talking about, going back to that scene, continues that seduction of Kylo Ren and Rey.
And that fantastic back-to-back fight with the Praetorian Guards after
oh my God.
Snoke is dead.
Which have got to be the most idiotic guards I've ever seen, because after he sliced in half about 8 of your fellow comrades, you're going to be the one to go, you know what, I'm out.
Right. You're gonna be the guy that you're gonna be the guy in Batman where he kicks everybody to the curb, and then there's one guy with a machete, and Batman motions him, and he just drops the machete and runs away.
That's going to be me. That's going to be me. I'm like, hey, no. My name's Paul. This is between y'all. See ya. And it's interesting. It's like his total nerdgasm when she tosses him that lightsaber, and he just spears it right through that guy's face.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is, talk about a crowd pleaser.
Right.
It gives you everything you want, but nothing that you expect.
Right, exactly.
Because my heart sank when I realized that his alliance to her was not real. That it was still self-serving. It was still serving the Sith. And my heart sank because I thought, oh, you just had this moment, and then it was all trickery.
Right. The best time to try to turn him would have been right after, when he was so conflicted after killing Han.
Yeah.
And all of that was
because
stuck.
He can't come back from that.
No.
and
he's completely turned now, and even Luke says, I can't bring him back.
Right.
And
you can't bring him back from killing his father.
That's
that's not
that is on the level with Anakin chopping up the younglings. Like that. That's where you sell your final soul. Like that's where you give away your last piece for.
Yeah.
Like
you're not.
That's it. That's it. And it was remarkable when he solidified that, and he's just like, okay, I'm going to take power for myself because you're going to kill this girl that I have weird feelings for. Like, it's like he has a confusing boner for her. Like, he's not sure how he needs to feel about her, and that's how he's felt the entire from the moment he heard about her, from the moment he knew about her.
Right.
He's just had these weird conflicting feelings, like, I don't want to kill you, I want you to help me, I want you to come with me. When he had her prisoner, you're my guest. He takes off his mask for her. Then he has that weird rapey dialogue, and then she fights back and wins. And then
I feel like that line from Snoke, take off that ridiculous mask.
Yeah, take off that ridiculous thing. And he just smashes it in the elevator. Yeah. And my wife was also saying, and this is so true, it's like, they've gotten to a point now with Ren that they just know his tantrums. Like, they're not surprised by it. Like, when he smashes his helmet, he's like, bring my ship! And the two people are there, like, they look at his decimated helmet, and they're like, okay, we'll get your ship.
Okay.
and put me down. I'm going to confront him. Are you crazy? Don't let your personal feelings frump.
Yeah.
Right away, sir.
Right there.
It's like,
That guy in the front, the guy in the foreground who has such perfect timing.
yeah,
Throws through the anyway, you out there.
yeah.
But
Beautiful.
what's great is Kylo Ren has these, we call them temper tantrums, but he has these violent outbursts which are indicative of the Sith, which it's a way of reminding himself, feeling the power of his.
Right, and the funny thing is that the Sith, he's not Sith, and Snoke is not Sith. They're not limiting themselves to being bound to those rules.
Yeah.
So Ren, where the Sith are very controlled in their outward emotion, but they internalize everything, he externalizes until the end, where he's finally starting to, just before he kills Snoke, he solidifies his purpose and he calms himself, he centers himself. But they're trying, Snoke was trying to do something new with Ben Solo Kylo Ren and create a dark side user that could also pull on the light side and kind of bridge both worlds, but not be a gray Jedi, actually be a dark side agent, but not be a Sith, to kind of open that up.
Well, and he's also, with Ren, he's also fighting with himself, because
oh, sure,
the scene where he, I'm seeing a pattern here, because there was a scene in The Force Awakens, a scene here, where he just destroys something to remind himself and feel the power of his own, to feel his own power inside of him.
To let it course through him and be destructive. Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of that scene in the jail cell in Raging Bull when he just.
Oh yeah, when he just starts punching the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a way of subverting feeling, subverting his feelings towards something more aggressive.
Right. Channeling everything out into, instead of feeling sad, he gets angry.
Right. You channel it into anger. It's like just as in Raging Bull. It's that animalistic, because that's what the Sith do. They pull on their animalistic instincts. Right.
And I loved when we saw him in The Force Awakens. The whole criticism was that he's just this emo kid that wants to be like Darth Vader, but he's like, everything's bad, I don't like it, and he would sit in his room and listen to death metal and, paint his fingernails black and wear eyeshadow and, totally goth everything up. But in this...
goth Sith. He's just mopey all the time, basically.
Yeah. And he always walks with his head down. And is like, yeah, I guess the dark side's cool and all.
Everything sucks.
Everything sucks, man.
That's kind of where this is going.
But then he really firms up, and yes, he still has outbursts when he's yelling at Luke and everything, but it's because of that history. And because of the way that he perceives what happened that 6-7 years ago when Luke decided he was going to try to kill him to end the darkness because he's already turned, but he can't bring himself to do it. Oh my gosh, those three...
Elements. Yeah, well, you get those different... Yeah, you get those different
which was absolutely... harkens to Obi-Wan's comment in Return of the Jedi.
Certain point of view.
Everyone's truth depends on your own point of view. From a certain point, what I told you was true was from a certain point of view. The truths that we cling to are all determined by your point of view, and that is absolutely at the core of it. He tries to
And
tell
even
it in a
even
favorable
going
way for
back
himself.
even going back to episode 3,
Yeah.
says Palpatine is evil. Obi-Wan says
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine is
Mm-hmm.
evil,
Mm-hmm.
and Anakin says, well,
From my point of view,
Jedi is evil.
right.
So it kind of plants the seed there too.
Mm-hmm.
And you come back to this, and by the way, this is the first time in a Star Wars movie I've ever seen a proper flashback.
There's never been one.
There's never been one. The closest we ever got was in Rey's vision in the last movie.
Right, but even that wasn't.
Even that really wasn't a flashback.
We don't really know what that was. More of a forced vision. This was a literal. I'm gonna show you what happened back then.
Right. And what's crazy about the flashback, Mark Hamill, I don't know if it's the lighting, Mark Hamill in those two flashbacks looks insane. His eyes are bulging out, and he looks insane.
Well, in Kylo Ren's version, that's what he's saying. He was being,
He'd gone crazy.
he'd gone crazy. He was going to assassinate him, which is not the Jedi way.
No.
That's why he set it up like that, to give her that negative image. But when Luke finally tells the real truth, you see the heartbreak in him, that he realizes the mistake that he made in trying to think that he could just sneak up and murder this kid.
Right.
Who was really only in his
He
early
hesitated.
20s. He did.
Hesitated. And it's like, when he hesitates, you look at the lightsaber, and then you see the kid, and you're thinking, okay, there is no way that Luke can talk his way out of this. There is no way he can talk. Well, it didn't work.
I was just checking on you and I needed some light. Yeah.
And you knew you were going to wake him up because that thing is not quiet.
No, they never. No, they're not. They're not.
And by the way, he has that lightsaber. He still has the lightsaber from Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
The one that he actually built in Shadows of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he threw that away. Because
He must have gotten rid of it or something, because we don't see it. See, that was when he shows up on Crate.
Yeah.
At the end. Different clothes. He looks like he is in the flashback, so he's younger and his beard is brown, and
yeah, you're like, he got cleaned up for this.
Right. He even went and got the Just for Men beard retouching. Like he flew by a space Rite Aid and spent his time in hyperspace grooming out his beard, and then
you're just like, the frog maids cleaned him up really nice.
Yeah. But then when he walks out there and you see that the lightsaber that he has is his father's, which we had just seen get destroyed in Snoke's, I'm like, oh, he's not there.
And also when he's on the salt flats, they do a close-up on Kylo Ren's feet. He does that, the kind of bull thing,
Mm-hmm.
kind of shuffles his feet,
Mm-hmm.
like he's going to run toward him. And Luke doesn't disturb the salt.
Right.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I was fooled.
Really?
I was completely fooled. I didn't know he was. I didn't know he wasn't there. I was absolutely fooled. I guess
I suspected because I suspected just because he looked too much like flashback Luke and not Octo Luke.
Looking like Kylo Ren would recognize him.
Exactly. Looking how they would have remembered him, because that's how everybody who knew him last saw him. Before life on Octo took their real I have to say, though, he does keep his nice Jedi robes remarkably white for the area that. Yeah, that's probably because they were doing his laundry. Yeah.
For a while, till to race smash their wheelbarrow. But the end of this movie, we got to talk about the end of this movie.
Oh man.
Again, failure. They lose 60% of their armada, and
They lose so many people in the resistance that by the time everybody evacuates after the ground assault and everything, the entire now rebellion can fit on the Millennium Falcon.
or can fit. I was about to say could fit on screen at the same
Right?
time.
Yeah.
And by the way, I love the Crystal Wolves.
Oh, they were so awesome.
And they, yeah, it's like they're still running.
Mm-hmm.
They're still fighting for it. They're still trying to get there. And it's like Luke is their last hope. And the thing that got me about this was the idea that almost from the moment we met him in Episode 4, he's been talking about the rebellion.
Right.
This was a cause that he believed in
Mm-hmm.
from the start. And he was willing, in the end, to give his life for it.
Mm-hmm.
And this astral projection thing, I thought was kind of brilliant because I didn't know Force users could do that.
Oh, yeah. See, that was another new power that you wouldn't really see anyone else really be able to do.
Yeah, because it kills you apparently.
It took a lot of his energy, and if you really think about it, he force ghosted himself while he was alive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
consider like he's in what he calls the most unfindable place in the galaxy, pitching himself out to something that's got to be, I mean, Crate's got to be way out in the middle of nowhere space, and just projecting a fully fluid. He even touches Leia, and his solid gives her the
gives
dice.
him a look like she knows he's not there.
I think she does.
Yeah.
Because she can feel the Force, but she can't control it.
Mm-hmm.
So she must know that he's projecting himself, but at the same time, he goes out there to
he kisses her on the forehead. There's a look in her eyes where she just like she knows he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a startled look almost,
Mm-hmm.
and then he leaves, and of course he winks at 3PO, and it's like the melancholy. By the way, the melancholy, of course, in that scene for me is the idea that Anthony Daniels is now the only actor to appear in every single Star Wars movie because Kenny Baker is now gone.
Yep, that's true.
So he's the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you get out there, and again, we talk about the audience for this movie was just going crazy because we didn't know where it was going. I knew Luke was gonna go out for this movie because there was no way that they weren't.
See, I thought that they would keep him around for Episode 9 simply because Carrie Fisher died. And to eliminate Luke and basically Leia in the same movie would have been too heartbreaking, but they kept her. But with him, his death did not make me as terrifyingly sad as Han Solo's did.
Yeah, because Han went out. Yeah.
Well, because Luke can come back.
Right.
And he will come back. Mark Hamill has kind of teased that he'll be in 9.
That's what I told my mom. That's what I told my wife after That's what I told my wife after she was so sad about him going out. I was like, well, he'll be back.
Yeah.
Yoda came back.
Yoda came
Ewan
back.
McGregor to come back.
Yeah.
Something. But honestly,
I think it would be hilarious if Ewan McGregor came back as Obi-Wan and he's like, "Wait, how did you get to be young?" And he goes, "Oh, your father taught me how to do that with my Force
just
ghost."
thinking that. Just thinking that. But,
I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna make a confession. In the days leading up to this, it was driving me crazy about whether or not Luke was gonna make it out of this movie. And so the morning of the 14th, the morning before I saw it, the plot was listed on Wikipedia. And I
You
peeked.
read it?
I peeked at the last paragraph because I just had to know. It's like if it's gonna break my heart, I
I
had
get
to
that.
know because, and
I get
I'm really
that.
glad I did because this movie is this creates such anxiety in the
Mm-hmm.
average Star Wars fan because you don't know where it's going.
Right.
That was just, that would have been all I would have been thinking about. The
Mhm.
only thing that was driving me crazy is I didn't know how it
Right.
went out. And when they were shooting at him, fire everything on that man, I'm
Mhm.
sitting there going, this is not it.
No, I knew that wasn't it. I knew even if he had been there, he wasn't going to go out that way.
Yeah, he's not going to
He
go
would
out.
have he would have had a force shield up or something, like he would have lived through that, because
Yeah.
if you watch the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars, you see Jedi living through all sorts of bombardment and stuff, and they can just, somebody as powerful as Luke Skywalker isn't going to be taken out by guerrilla
Yeah. When I figured out that it
guns.
was an astral projection is when Kylo Ren tried to run him through.
Well, yeah.
And that's when I figured it out. And I kept waiting for him to fall over. It's like, well, that explains the Just for Men thing. That explains the Just for Men Jedi look.
No, really, I'm a younger man.
No, I totally look like this. And then
Leia
he
probably smiles because she's like, I'm as old as you are. I know
Yeah.
what you look like.
Exactly.
Well, he's like what, a minute older? 30
Possibly.
seconds older?
Possibly. And he dies, but it's so poignant because he dies looking at the twin sun.
Mm-hmm.
And, that sunset, when he disappears, it's so great because he didn't go out like a punk.
No.
He didn't go out badly. Like I said, he'll be back. Now, I want to tell you something. We're right at the end of the movie here, but I want to talk about something. I said before, I'm class of 77.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with Star Wars. I grew up with these movies. I had every toy, everything. Even carried it on into adulthood. Met a woman who is probably nuttier about Star Wars than I am. Got married, had a Star Wars wedding. Okay? We've seen the movies hundreds of times.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where Yoda shows up,
Oh.
and they're sitting side by side, and Yoda is still teaching him,
Yeah.
still looking toward the horizon. My wife grabbed my arm, and it was a moment.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is just about perfect for a
Mhm.
Star Wars fan.
And then he clunks him in the head with his cane.
Yeah. But
It was
great.
perfect.
But
yeah.
the one that really brought it home for me was the scene with R2.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says, I'm not going back.
How can I make you
Yeah.
understand I'm not going back, and there's nothing you can do that'll make me? And he shoots out the original recording of Princess
And
Leia. Help me, Obi-Wan
it's
Kenobi,
messed
you're my
up.
only hope.
It's messed up, and
Yeah.
it's old, and it's, I almost expected Luke to look at him and go, you still have that?
R2 has everything.
He has everything. By the way, R2 is not in this movie very much.
No.
Neither is Chewie. Did you notice that?
Yeah, Chewie's not in it much either.
And the most melancholy credit in the entire, there are hundreds and hundreds of people credited. The most melancholy is Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca consultant.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
There's
Well,
different
he
actors
even
playing him.
when they did The Force Awakens,
Yeah.
Peter Mayhew was only Chewbacca when Chewbacca was seated.
Yeah.
Because he had knee surgery, he couldn't walk. He can't
Walks with
walk.
a cane.
Yeah, he walks with a cane. He's in his early 70s, and his enormous frame took a big toll on his knees and everything. He can't walk well, so every time he was sitting down or laying down, that was him, and he helped find the guy and train the guy that ended up now is in the suit.
Right.
So Chewbacca can continue on because Peter Mayhew trained the guy to do it, and he does a really good job in it too.
Yeah, but
As
Chewbacca
Chewbacca.
consultant, that was
Yeah.
a very interesting, and they separated it out.
Hmm.
It's like not in the Matrix. It's like it's separated as Chewbacca consultant for Peter Mayhew. I thought that was interesting. But again, the end of this movie, I have no idea where this is going.
No, I have no
There's
clue.
the thing with Rey, and there's the thing with Finn. And by the way, it suggested in the original in Force Awakens that there would be some romance between Finn and Rey. That's not even the case. That's off the table.
No.
When they hug at the end of this movie,
That's a
it's
friend hug.
it's a brother sister thing.
Right, yeah, it is. I loved, so he's over standing next to Rose. I love Poe comes up. He has not met her, even though she was at the Dakar base for like 20 minutes before they went out and went for looking for Luke. He was in the room with her,
Yeah.
presumably when they saw the map, but they didn't really actually get a chance to talk and meet until here. He's like, "Hi, I'm Poe," and she goes, "I'm Ray." And he goes, "I know."
Yeah.
Like Finn won't shut up about you. You get the kind of feeling like I know that people are really there. There's a group of people who really want a Poe Finn relationship, which I think would be a huge step forward for the franchise. The books have LGBTQ characters all over the place
Right.
in the new canon, but the movies have yet to make that jump. And there was a lot of talk that it would be Poe and Finn. And John Boyega was like, "No, I don't think that's going to happen, even if Oscar wants it to." Because Oscar Isaac is like, "Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, let's do that." I
Not gonna
think
happen.
he's going to fall for Ray.
I don't think so. I don't see that.
No?
I don't really see that happening. I don't see Ray getting in a relationship.
Probably
she's such
not.
a lone
Yeah.
wolf that I don't see it. I again, it's anybody's guess where this is going. You have some ideas,
We're going to
but
get to see Kylo Ren in the seat of power
yeah,
in 9, and there's talk that they're going to continue. They're going to make another trilogy after this
they are.
with the new
It was
characters.
going to be directed by. It was going to be given to Rian Johnson, but now he says he doesn't want it.
No, 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 no. He's doing a trilogy with new characters.
Okay.
He's writing and directing the first one, and he's going to be supervising all three of them. He might be writing and directing all three of them, but it's going to be a new group in a different time period. There's a lot of hope that it's going to be set back in the old Republic at the height of the Jedi, like maybe even before the Great Hyperspace Wars and before the Great Sith War.
Oh,
Or
nice.
it will be that where there's, thousands of Sith and thousands of Jedi, and Darth Bane sets off his thought bomb and kills all the Sith. That might be where they go with it.
Yeah.
But it's a whole new trilogy with whole new characters. When he was initially saying it, he said a different galaxy, but I'm not really sure how you could do that and still have it under the
Yeah.
Star Wars banner. So it's just a different time and different characters. Whereas after 9, there's talk of an episodes 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
But this Rian Johnson trilogy is a completely separate.
I'm happy with the different trilogy because once you're done with the
Oh, yeah.
9, I'm good.
I'm not sure where else they could go. I
Yeah.
mean, they'll find a way, I'm sure, but it
Rogue One was
can't.
pretty- you could
They
go in a
can't. They
different-
couldn't
yeah.
do it. They couldn't do it right on the heels. They would have to wait a good 10 years, or I would hope.
Well, on the ultimate final thoughts on this, I'm glad that the movie didn't follow an Empire to the letter because
No, it has
Empire's
some
one
of the
of my-
backbone, but
beyond Star Wars, Empire is one of my favorite movies ever.
Mhm.
And I was so glad that Rian Johnson had when the production crew had the idea to let this movie breathe on its own,
mhm.
because I was afraid it was going to be like Star Trek Into Darkness, where the movie was so it hitched its wagon so much to Wrath of Khan that the movie had trouble
Yeah,
breathing on its own.
it did.
I was afraid this movie was going to hitch its wagon to Empire so much that it would be difficult for it to have a life of its own, and it definitely does have a
It
life of
really
its own.
does. I think, and my final thoughts are this is, you're gonna see online, and you're probably seeing it already, that there's this huge divide between critics and fans. There are people who have admitted to creating fake Rotten Tomato accounts
Yeah.
so that they can drive the score down because they had a problem with it. Most of the problems that they're having with it are that it's too new and different.
Yeah.
They're kind of misogynistic. They're kind of racist. They don't like the fact that John Boyega was a lead in the first one, and now he's still in the second one, and now there's an Asian woman, two Latinos, and a woman,
Very
and a
female
white woman.
centric.
Like,
Very
female centric,
and
very
I'm very
very.
happy about that.
I am too. I'm happy that the whole thing is representative of a broader spectrum of people, because it's not just going to be white people in another galaxy. I mean, it just doesn't. It's 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 the times and the realization that it's not just all one group of people going to see these movies and living in the world.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm really happy that our main hero, Ray, has a British accent, because
Hmm.
if you watch the original trilogy, it's almost like the English were all the bad guys.
They were, except for Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Yeah, yeah,
except for
yeah.
Obi-Wan.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like if you were British, you were a part of the Empire.
Right, right,
If
right,
you were American, you're part of the rebellion.
right. And it was funny, like all the lackeys in the Empire were British, but the main got Vader had this American accent.
Yeah,
And when you think about Obi-Wan being like the power to combat Vader, all of them are basically have American accents, and he is British.
right.
It's like this. One of them they should be on opposite sides, but they're not. And
I am deliriously happy about this movie. I love it to death.
me too. I
I was
actually said
able to
walking
see
in,
it. I was actually, for the second time, was actually better because
yeah,
um, the anticipation wasn't there, so I could focus
right,
on the story a little better. So the
yeah.
value seeing it the second time.
That's what happened with me. I've seen it 3 times now. I saw it Thursday night, Friday morning, and Friday night.
Yeah,
and, and
you're not a fan, are you, or anything?
oh, not at all.
I was at the theater. Let me tell you, the movie was at 7 o'clock. I was at the theater at 1:30, and there was nobody there.
Well, there's no reason to do that anymore, Jared. You're stuck back in the olden days
You know
when
what?
you
It
actually
doesn't
had
matter. My friend Kevin and I were just sitting on the floor playing his Nintendo Switch, and we were like, we don't care. We're here.
to. Yeah.
We're
We
here.
got there.
We could have been here last night.
We had tickets for a 7:30 show, and we got there at about 6:30. And this one, the theater that we went to didn't have assigned seats. The one that I went
Thank
to
God.
Friday morning and Friday night had the assigned seats that we got to pick. So we just needed a parking place and
Yeah.
concessions, which I loved, for especially for a movie like this on opening night, that you already have your seats. And uh, I didn't have to be like, well, we got to get there at like 5:30 so that we can get in line and we can actually have seats together.
Yeah.
Which is what we had to do
Well,
for the opening night at the ones without the reserved seating. And I'm like, well, we got to get there so that we can sit together. Cause
Force Awakens and Rogue One, my friends and I um, went to the theater, the most popular theater in town.
Mhm.
So you had to be there at 1:30 in the afternoon because there was already a line forming. Well, the theater that we got was closer to home, and it wasn't as populated. So we didn't really need to do that. But it was fun to sit there. It was fun to spend time together. and we found out that there were enough people. There were 11 of us. Found that there were enough people. We needed an entire row. So it was nice to be there, and it wasn't as jam packed. What really got me was the fact that they said it was sold out, but by the time the show started, the floor seats were still open. So I'm thinking, what's that about?
Maybe they bought them online and couldn't make it.
Maybe they couldn't make it, but there were like 30 seats down there.
Jeez.
Like, yeah.
My the when I saw it Thursday night, theater was full.
Yeah.
Friday night, the theater was full. Actually, Friday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, theater was full. It was sold out.
Yeah.
10 in the morning. For Rogue One and The Force Awakens, I went to see that the next morning after the Thursday. I'd go see Thursday night and then Friday morning and then Friday night. The theater would be at least half empty.
Yeah.
But this time it was completely full.
I went to see it again on Saturday night, and it was more like a typical Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't packed. It was just. But then again, it was 8:15. So.
Right, and there's so many showings of this.
Oh my God!
In
there's a showing
every
about
theater.
There's literally a showing every 15 minutes.
15 minutes to half hour, yeah. I mean, so
And it's going to be really strange because we get another Star Wars movie, by the way, in about 6 months.
Yeah.
That's going to be weird, and then we don't get another one for another year and a half.
No, a year. They're saying Episode 9's going to hit in May.
Summer? Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be strange.
We've gotten so used to them being released in December, and
every year.
Yeah, for the last 3. Yeah, so it's how I've been kind of able to cope with that exact week each year, because The Force Awakens was released to the day a year after my mother died. So it was like a way that I could not dwell on, like, have something to look forward to. And Rogue One was released on my nephew's birthday on the 16th last year. And then this was released on the 15th, so it's still within that weekend. It's been a great way for me to cope with the sadness of the holiday season for me personally. And now they're going to take that away from me. Darn you, Disney. You buy Fox and you take away my Christmas.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that Fox thing. That's strange.
But
we better wrap this up.
Yeah, my final thought is, when I was walking into it with my family the second time, so it was my third time going into it, their second time, I said to my wife, this could end up being my favorite Star Wars movie.
Empire's still my favorite.
So far, Empire and A New Hope and Jedi are kind of all rolled in there as my favorites. But I could see over time this supplanting that.
Yeah.
Not immediately, but over time.
I need time to marinate. It's only been 5 days. So I need
right.
time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's been exactly a week since we saw it the first time.
And I'll see it again on Christmas Day. By the way,
I'm gonna see it again Saturday.
We don't know anything about Episode 9. We don't know anything about the trilogy. If you're listening to this in 2027, hope that new decade sees you well. We have no idea.
Right. We're recording this on December 20th, 2017. So we are literally 6 days after the movie premiered to the public.
And it is literally at this moment the biggest thing in the world.
Right. Yeah. It just came off a $215 million opening weekend, or $230 million.
Let me put it this way. State of Alabama just got a senator who's a Democrat, and Star Wars is still the bigger news.
Yeah. Is it really a huge win if you beat a pedophile? Anyway,
we'll get into that.
That about does it here on our special Star Wars edition.
So much, we're hysterical.
It's so great, and I'm looking forward. I'm gonna see it at least on Saturday, if not before. But because we've mentioned before, we're in the Online Film Critics Society, and we're smack dab in the middle of our voting season. So I've got a lot of nominees to catch up with, and I even plowed through almost all of my screeners. I think I had 8 left
Haven't
before
had
the
time.
nominations, and I still have like 20 movies to watch after the nominations came out.
All those movies, and this is the only one I can keep thinking about.
Well, yeah, that was the trouble too. I'm like, well, at least this comes out the day before nominations are due, so that I might be able to vote for it, and I'll be able to think about something other than this movie for like a
Yeah.
day. And then,
Well, as Doug said, this is kind of a one-off. We just kind of did this midweek thing. If you'll join us back here on Monday, we are continuing our Christmas duology with Doug's pick is going to be A Christmas Story.
right, debuting on Christmas Day or perhaps Christmas Eve, depending on when I get to cut it together. And so, with that, we thank you so much for indulging us in our
Our
hope
madness.
to in our madness as critics and as fans, as super fans of this franchise. We like more than just the original trilogy. So I wrote a piece on that on my site, and I put it on Medium too. That the people who are just complaining about all these new movies just want to complain. If they say, I'm just going to stick to the original trilogy, that means they like 3 movies out of 9.
Yeah,
They're not franchise fans,
right.
friends.
The original
And
trilogy.
if this is you, I apologize. If this hurts your feelings, I apologize. It's the truth, and the truth hurts sometimes. Check that piece out. Check out Jerry's review. My review of The Last Jedi is forthcoming. I've actually started it, so it will actually get done and posted. um, Breaking my long book-related hiatus on my site. You can catch all of our episodes of the Podbay Doors at the www.thepodbaydoorspodcast.wordpress.com. We thank you very much for joining us. I'm Doug Heller of TalkMovieToMe.com. You can find me on Twitter at TalkMovieToMe1. And for my Jedi Master co-host, Jerry Dean Roberts, you can read his stuff at armchaircinema.com, armchairoscars.com, and overthinkingoscars.wordpress.com. You can find him on Twitter at armchaircma. We thank you very much for joining us. May the Force be with you always, and the pod bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.